Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Deeper Than Roots podcast. I have a beautiful guest with me. I cannot say that enough. Irene, curator of Brown Girls Heal and a multitude of other things. How are you, sis?
I am beautiful. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm always excited to talk to you.
I know.
I genuinely enjoy this. Now, this is like the getting into the pod part, but we've already been talking. We talked yesterday, you guys. This is take two. Because technology be doing what it does. So we had to circle back and run this back for you because we really want you all to get this nourishment. But Irene, go ahead and let the people know where you're from and what you do and just what started you down this beautiful path.
So I am from Brooklyn, New York. I am a self-care, mental health, spiritual wellness practitioner. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I've been on this journey for over 15 years. Or just about 15 years. My journey started at the age of 16 after the loss of my grandfather, which kind of spiraled me into like a depression, which kind of spiraled other things to come up. And at about 17, 18, I was diagnosed with a diagnosis of bipolar depression, which if you aren't familiar with that is, it is a series of like manic highs and manic lows. So that's kind of where my journey started, just figuring out who I am outside of what doctors try to tell me that I am, figuring out how to navigate through certain feelings that at a very young age, I was still sort of learning myself. So it's like I'm learning myself, but I'm learning what's been put on me as well, and having to navigate through that. So yes, my journey started at the age of 16. And throughout that journey, I would say the growth in that journey, I know you didn't ask me this.
Go ahead, sis. We're here for it.
It's like coming to me. The beautiful thing about that journey and starting that journey so young was it really taught me how to truly love myself. I went into my adult years kind of knowing what I need and knowing what love looks like and knowing how I need to be supported and knowing how I need to be seen and understood by the people that I allow in my life. So I would say that's one of the great things that starting my journey off so young taught me, just like the true definition of love from the inside out.
Yes. So being so young and dealing with such a great loss kind of like catapulted you down this journey of self-love, self-care, and activating the power that already exists in you. I love
that. I love the way you worded that. Yes.
I love that. So you coin yourself a spiritual wellness practitioner. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what your services are that you offer?
Okay, so spiritual wellness, at that age is also where my spiritual journey started. So I actually grew up Catholic. I grew up in religion. I was heavy in church when I grew up. A lot of things, I was always connected to God, but I was never connected to religion and kind of being conformed and placed in that box. So after my grandfather passed away, I actually experienced my first spiritual experience. And I knew that experience was connected to him because he was like a very important person in my life. So I knew that what I experienced that day was tied to him. So I knew that it was nothing other than like something spiritual. So my journey in spirituality, just with meditation, tapping deeper into myself, learning who my ancestors were, learning how to praise my ancestors in a divine way. And I also kind of correlated religion and spirituality when I went on my spiritual journey, because a lot of things that I did in my religion and in the church, I do on my, my spiritual practice, like lighting candles. In my spiritual practice, I light candles. And growing up Catholic, we had a room in my church where when you go into that room and you go to pray, you have to light a white candle before you pray. So that's something that I do in my spiritual practice, lighting sage. In Catholic church, our pastor and our priest, he would walk around with, I don't know the name of it, I can't remember the name, but it had holy smoke in it. And he would walk around the entire church and bless the entire church with holy smoke. To me, it's like, that's what my sage is. My sage is my holy smoke.
Yes.
But I think tapping deeper into spirituality definitely assisted in my healing journey and just connecting me with God on a way deeper level than I think religion could have given me at that time.
Yeah. Holy smoke. What? Holy I smoke. Love that. There's, of course, a lot of interconnectedness when it comes to spirituality and religion. The core of it all is it's all spiritual. We just all operate and choose to practice different, some with more restraint and some with more liberation and freedom. So I grew up Christian. My grandfather was a pastor. My father was a deacon, several family members in and out of the pulpit at church. Yes. Okay. We was there Monday, Wednesday, all the days. Yes. And so as I stepped away from religion, I was always mindful to never denounce religion or demonize religion, because I didn't want to do to other people what I had experienced throughout my Christian experience. And there are beautiful things in Christianity that still, I can connect with today. I will never, ever, ever let go of gospel music.
Absolutely. That one.
Look, get the shackles off my feet. I will never.
Listen. Okay.
So, and it still creates this energy. It still makes me feel good. Sometimes it's what I need to soothe myself. So, I love to blend the two as opposed to, cut something off and force myself down one lane. I think that that's more expansive. So that is beautiful.
And it keeps us vibrating high.
It does.
It definitely does.
And it keeps us open to the world around us. Since I'm not cutting and off and demonizing this thing, I can still feel my sister that goes to church, and I can still connect with my sister who's practicing whatever she's practicing. I'm open. It doesn't bother me. I know that I am protected enough through my own divinity, my ancestors, to be able to interconnect with anybody, no matter what it is that they're doing.
Yes.
So with that being said, you offer a multitude of services on Brown Girls Heal, and anything from tarot, oracle reading. You're an author. We're going to talk about that a little bit later because we got to get into the full tea of the book. But when it comes to tarot and oracle reading, there's a lot of, sometimes merging these things in one lane. What is the difference between the two of these services?
All right. So for me, tarot cards usually have one message. It's one story or multiple messages, but the message is always the same. So let's say I pull like a death card. You're never going to get a different explanation of what that card means. With oracle cards, the messages are typically different on each deck, and they also can be interpreted differently based on whoever's giving the message or whoever's receiving the message.
Okay.
With tarot, it's always like, this is the message. I said what I said. And spirit said what they said. Okay. And that's just what it is. But with oracle, you can definitely interpret oracle cards differently. Messages are usually very different on oracle cards. Illustration is usually different on oracle cards. But tarot, spirit said what they said in them tarot cards.
Okay. And so tarot is concrete and oracle readings are more fluid. What about Reiki?
Yes.
What about Reiki? I know that Reiki is another service that you offer. So what is that energetically, and how could someone experience that offering through you?
So Reiki, I would say, I just want to tell a story really quickly. The first time I
please.
ever received Reiki, I had a headache for 3 days.
Okay.
And it was at my old job. This woman, she was like, oh, I can perform Reiki on you and I can see if that relieves some of the pressure on your head. I had no idea what the name to what she was doing, that it was called Reiki. Okay. So she does this thing to me. She puts her hands over my head. She doesn't touch my head. She just places her hands over my head. And she was just like, breathe. We took, a couple deep breaths together. We meditated together. My headache was completely gone.
Wow.
So when I asked her what it was that she did to me and she told me Reiki, I did my own research on it. And I came to the conclusion that I've been doing this for years and I never knew that it was called Reiki.
Right. Yes.
I've been doing this kind of energy work for people, for myself, for my animals, for children in my life all these years, and had no idea that this was the name for it until my 20s.
Right. So we kind of like touched base on this the other day, how this stuff is in our DNA, you guys. This is who we are. It is who our ancestors are. And we just have now these new modern terms and kind of find more research and information about these things that already exist in us, that we had no idea about. So I think that story is beautiful, because I am certain there are so many people in the world who are out here doing rituals, who are out here bending energy and yielding their energy and just have no clue that that's what they're doing. But you guys, you are already powerful. That's what you're doing.
There's so much divine energy in each and every one of us. And it's just about tapping into that energy and knowing and honing and just like knowing that the divine is like bleeding through you and like your ancestors are bleeding through you. There's so much magic that like runs through our veins as like people of color and indigenous people. Like there's so much magic that flows through us, and it's just really about like tapping into that, like tapping into your divine and letting the divine lead you intentionally. Activation and ownership, y'all. Activation and ownership. I love that. And it makes me think of this question that I'm always asked and have been asked since I've been on this journey of spiritual awareness. I don't think you begin a spiritual journey. I believe you're already on it. It's just about, like we said, activating and tapping in and understand what you're going through. But I'm always asked, how does one begin a spiritual journey? What would you say to someone who asked you that question as a person in your field? You know what I noticed? A lot of our spiritual activation, unfortunately, comes from trauma. It does. Like, it's so unfortunate, but a lot of our activation stems from having to or going through some sort of traumatic experience that causes us to kind of slow down and be forced to tap in. Even with COVID, COVID forced everyone to slow down. COVID forced everyone to take a break and sleep and rest and tap into their creative side and nourish their bodies and their minds and their souls in a totally different way, because they had the space, time, and opportunity to do so. Everything kind of slowed down. So I think it's just about tapping into yourself. And if you don't go through a traumatic experience and you do want to start a spiritual journey, I would say tap into your lower conscious first, which is shadow work. And that's for me, that's how I had to start the work. I had to tap into the parts of myself that I really didn't want to face, but I knew that I had to face in order for my glow up to start, and in order for me to really learn who I was and love who I was and appreciate where I was going. I really had to tap into those more vibrational put it in quotes, but those low vibrational parts of me that I would never really want to face if I weren't forced to.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, if you are starting a journey, tap into shadow work. You really have to start there. Like, you have to start with that inner child. You have to start with that little girl who's still holding trauma, that womb. All that's, all our trauma is like in our womb. You got to heal those parts of you. I think that's where I would definitely say to start the journey is shadow work and mirror work.
Oh yes, that mirror work. Yes.
Mirror work. That's mirror work. Listen, mirror work is like
next level. It really pulls at that divine feminine, that root chakra. It really gets that sacral chakra moving.
Yes.
Okay, so to your point of saying that you definitely have to start, in the areas of your life where you've probably experienced trauma. And if you're one to say you haven't experienced trauma, I would love to meet you, because that's interesting. But if you haven't experienced it or don't realize you have yet, because some people don't know they're in a traumatized circumstance and because of how long they've been immersed in it. But it's important to activate that side of you. That's what I had to do. And it happened when I was 24-ish, when I was like, okay, this is a lot. I mean, the trauma had started to occur far younger than that. But at 24, I was at this point where I was feeling like I was going to explode. And the universe was very intentional about isolating me so that I could completely fall apart and rediscover all that I was. And it was the most chaotic, beautiful experience I've ever experienced in my life. So you have to not be, like you said, shadow work. You have to not be afraid of the dark, y'all.
And know that I think one of the statements that led me throughout, I think, my entire journey was sometimes you have to break down just to break through.
Yes.
That was my affirmation for so long. That affirmation carried me. Like, breaking down is not the end. It's not the end, and we're strong enough, and we're resourceful enough, and resilient enough, and divine enough to come out of situations higher than we were dragged in those situations.
Absolutely. With far more tools in our toolkit. And far more strength and courage to face the next thing, because you don't stop healing.
Absolutely.
It's a constant. So once you've gotten to this point to where you're feeling super magical and like you've got it figured out, there will be demons then. There will be spirits then. There will be energy then that you will also have to face, but you'll be far more equipped. Your toolkit will be solid at that point.
And you'll have far more love and peace in your heart.
Ashe. And an ability to call that shit out. Like, you know what? Wait a minute.
That intuition. Oh God.
High key, like, oh, this ain't it. I'm not in my space. I'm not amongst my people. This doesn't feel good to me. And you'll have more of a willingness and respect for yourself to say, okay, it's time for me to remove myself or let things go. I am super big on calling pauses in my life. Like, hey, y'all, I love y'all, but it's time for everybody to watch out and give me some space. As a person who is constantly working on figuring out ways to not just build yourself up, but to build up your community and communities attached to that community. How are you taking the time to pour into Irene? How are you healing yourself?
My self-care includes resting.
Yes.
Me and a girlfriend of mine had a conversation, and we were like, rest is an unprescribed medication that that people often take for granted, resting, because if you don't rest, your body will shut it down for you.
And spirit
will shut it down for you.
Yes.
Resting, meditating, speaking love into myself, affirmations, dancing, body movement. I think dancing is probably my favorite thing to do.
I love watching you dance, girl. I be on that Instagram story like, look at her. Get it. And then I turn my own music on. Yes.
It feels so good. Like dancing with yourself, it feels so good. Dancing showers. Oh Oh, showers is another one. I have this thing when I'm in the shower. When I'm meditating in the shower and like the water's running on me, I emotionally and physically and spiritually take myself to like an island that I want to go to. And that's what I like. That's literally what I envision when I am in the shower and like the water's like running through my locks. I'm not here. I'm in Jamaica somewhere.
Okay, I done astral projected.
I'm in Jamaica somewhere in this moment. Resting, solitude, spending time alone. And even if I do, one of my other favorite things to do is spend time with people. Like having the ability to spend time with people and not talk. Ooh. I think that's like an underrated connection. Ooh, like being able to like share space with somebody and it not always be like an overflow of conversation, but just being able to be in someone's space and like y'all energies are just like feeding off of each other. That is like, I love being able to do that. Because like sometimes I do want to be around people, but I don't want to talk to you. Period. I just want us to take energy.
I love you so. Listen, my partners are going to listen to this episode and they're going to know that I am not an asshole because somebody else agrees. And she said it with no coercion, nothing. I'd be like, I want y'all to be in here, but sometimes I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to, don't keep staring at me. I see you looking at me. Stop. Just you be in your environment. Yes. That's nothingness.
I love that.
Nothingness amongst other people, amongst good company. That's a 2022 vibe.
I love that. And I'm grateful that like I have like people in my tribe that we on the same type of wavelength. So like my friends will come over, they'll bring their laptops, I'll have my laptop, and we'll just like sit here.
Yeah. Because that silence allows, y'all vibrations to kind of like ding. And I love that. Some of my favorite things to do to pour back into my own cup, give myself some libations, right? I think it's definitely going to have to be anything in nature. I'm walking barefoot in a park, on a hiking trail. I know people be walking past me like, you need to have shoes on. I need to live my best life. Thanks. So, and when the weather's cold or too wet and I can't get outside the way that I want to, I like to repot my plants just so that I can put my hands in that soil and get charged up that way. Yes, right. And reading literature is a constant for me. Literature saved my life. Like I cannot thank the authors that I love the most enough. And so there's an altar for them in my home. And I adore a good book. I adore challenging perspective, thought-provoking conversation. Hello, podcast. It's so fulfilling to me, this exchange that we're having right now. The ability to connect with a beautiful soul all the way on the East Coast. I'm all the way over here in the West, and it's just light. It is just light. Which brings me to writing so the healing can begin, because my sis is a published author, okay? Okay, we out here doing major things. Can you get into the book, what it entails, and how you came to become an author?
So writing so the healing can begin is my first baby. It's my first self-published book. It's a compilation of poetry, love notes, and affirmations. And it's basically just about my experiences in my life thus far in either romantic relationships, platonic relationships, or the relationship that I developed with myself, and the love that I've developed for myself. It's about my journey in love, in all types of love, all types of experiences with love, the people that I've loved and lost, which a lot of them weren't really a loss in retrospect, but it's just about, it's my heart opening up. It's me being completely naked in my feelings and being fully transparent with the way love looks like to me and the way I need to receive love and the things that, I've just encountered in those experiences
And so
of
I love that. And so you share this through the form of poetry and affirmations, right?
yes.
What is one of the affirmations in your book that you love the most, that you're deeply connected to?
In this space, I think it's in this space, in this space, in this now, all is well.
In this space, in this now, all is well. And so it is. And Ashe.
That's probably one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
I love that one so much. So she's an author. Y'all need to tap in. She does tarot, Reiki, oracle readings. What else does Brown Girls Heal provide to the community that I'm not mentioning that you would want them to be mindful of tapping into?
So I do have also a website, browngirlsheal.com. There are free meditations on that website. I have like music playlists on the website. If you do want to tap into meditation and you're not sure how to get your vibe right, and solitude just is kind of weird for you, I have a playlist of just like a starter meditation list to guide you through your meditations. I do send out a weekly email that includes journal prompts, writing prompts, affirmations, reflections that I've experienced, or things that you can reflect about as you journey through whatever it is that you're going through. I include an extensive reading for the community in that newsletter. I will also be I'm trying to figure out the date because I love angel numbers. So I'm thinking about March 3rd, launching one-to-one sessions where we do a reading together, we do a meditation together, and we just talk about different ways that you can tap into your divine and how you can start your spiritual journey. And just guide you through whatever it is that you're going through and pour into each other at the same time.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna need to be signed up for that. I'm gonna need to be first on the list. When you mentioned that you have a playlist on as a link on one of your resources, that triggered a thought in my mind in a conversation that I was having with another person who coins themselves as a healer. And they were mentioning to me holistic healing and how we need to open it up to being a more inclusive space. And I was like, wait, it seems very inclusive to me. I'm not understanding. And so they brought me into this awareness when you said that, some people might be uncomfortable being in their own solitude, that there are some people who experience certain forms of trauma, and certain things like silent meditation or even certain yoga poses can be triggering for them and the trauma that they had been exposed to. And I was like, ding, like, how had I never put two and two together? And so the conversation led into how we can generate more inclusivity around that so that we aren't further traumatizing an already traumatized person. And I don't think that people think that sometimes meditation or yoga can be counterproductive to someone, depending on what their trauma actually is.
Right.
So thank you for that, because that's already a tool that can be added in my thought process when I'm working with people. Like, oh, okay, this is something that doesn't work for you. Let me send you to my girls page so you can get into the playlist. And so that
you know what it is too? Silence is loud. Silence can be very, very loud.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's receiving silence from someone else or just being in our own silence, like silence is loud.
It is.
And it's just all about learning how to shut off because most of the time the loud voices are the negative ones.
Yeah.
The soft, the loving voices and the kind things that we say to ourselves in our head, they don't yell at us, they don't cause us to
they don't beat us up.
So it's usually those low vibrational thoughts, those negative thoughts that are the loudest. And that's why the silence seems so uncomfortable for a lot of people, because when they're in silence, those negative thoughts start to creep up and they can't turn it off. And I actually had someone say that to me, like, I can't meditate because I keep hearing myself, like negative things to myself. Yeah. And it's just all about like learning how to shut that off, and also just not believing
those things,
the negative things that your thoughts are telling you, because they're definitely not true. So I think that's why a lot of times in meditation, music is extremely helpful. Extremely helpful.
At one point in this journey, silence had me in a chokehold, okay? Because my negative bias was just, she was very rude. And
they don't care.
And not only that, I'm a Pisces sun and moon, a lot of Capricorn in my chart also, but I'm a Pisces sun and moon, so I drift. My imagination is like next level. And so even when I would lay in bed at night and get the wandering, I'd wander into discomfort sometimes, like, honey, that is not your truth. Let that thought go. And the problem would be is that I would be in a reality that wasn't true for me in my present, but I would be trying to problem solve over there. And it would be distracting me from my reality. And not only that, but causing me stress and pain in my present physical body. It was bewildering. And I definitely had to circle back through things like music or getting into nature, because that music is just like no other for me. And create a whole different energetic experience. Excuse me. So
I was also going to say with the parks, if anyone's ever in Brooklyn in the summer, you could probably find me in Prospect Park every weekend.
We doing some coast to coast travel safely. We're aware of COVID, you guys, but we are going to see each other. We are going to hug each other. We are going to burn some sage and smoke each other out. It's going to be a vibe. And
you already put it out there, so it's definitely going to happen.
Listen, this is a constant connection.
Yes.
So Brown Girls Heal. The title references brown girls and obviously women specifically, but we talked a little bit yesterday about, this being an inclusive space. So, it is inviting to all genders and those who do not identify with a gender. However, what made you choose to coin it Brown Girls Heal? Why did you want to center Black women in our healing and our daughter's healing? Because my daughter is already in great admiration of you. It's the locks too. Why did you want to make us the focus?
That also started, and we touched on this as well, but that also started back in my journey at 16, 17, 18 years old. When I was going through what I was going through and learning what depression was, or learning what certain tools were to help me and guide me through whatever it was that I was going through at that time, there wasn't a space or a safe space that I felt like I can go to with people that look like me, with people that I felt like could empathize with certain things that I was dealing with people that I knew that if I said certain things, I would know that I would be seen as passionate and not angry or aggressive, where I would be seen. There weren't a lot of spaces like that for me. And I think we touched on age yesterday too.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm 35. So back when I was 16, 17 years old, I'm turning 35, but back when I was 16, 17 years old, we had Sconex and MySpace. There wasn't type in a hashtag and we could find what we were looking for.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I created a community that they knew that it was a community for us. And it was a community that you knew that you can go to and people look like you. They could possibly resemble some of the things that you might have went through. They could be a mirror for your beauty. They could be a light to whatever it is that you're going through. I wanted it to feel like a safe space, and I definitely wanted it to feel like a family.
Yes, and representation.
We have chosen family. A lot of people, I was blessed to have a very close-knit family, but I know a lot of people who don't have that. They don't have an amazing family structure. They have chosen family.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be a community that was a chosen family, but that felt safe.
I love that.
And that you knew that you would be safe and you would be seen and you would be loved and understood. I definitely wanted it to be that. And we need that. We don't have, even with therapists. I think I told you also, my first therapist was a white woman. And she's a very nice woman, but I also knew at a very young age that this woman does not resemble me, and I did not feel comfortable talking to her about things that I was going through. Right. She didn't, and it was simply because of that. It was because it wasn't about her personality. It wasn't about who she was as a woman. Right. It was literally because she did not look like me. And I knew that we came from two very different worlds. And a lot of the things that I've experienced in my culture, she would not understand that.
That's valid. That's extremely valid.
It was just like important to like highlight that it's for us.
I love that.
And I'm so okay with that.
Me too, because I love going on your Instagram and just seeing myself. Like I said the other day, when I first discovered you, I was like, not a reflection.
Hello.
Not me on Instagram. Hello. Look at me being great. Like I just felt myself. I saw myself. I felt represented and I felt welcomed. And so I was like, we're going to be friends. We're going to have conversations and they're going to be beautiful. And ding, here we are. So it's extremely valid. And that is also why Black Therapist Matters, which is a beautiful, beautiful segue into the next question or, next bit of information, because on your Instagram, you have a link tree that shows all of the resources and offerings that you have. And on there, you have a link for community resources for people who show up on your page. Can you talk a little bit about those resources?
Yeah, so a lot of those resources, they are targeting people of color or people in the LGBT community.
Oh, yes.
It's really exclusively for us. One of the pages actually, and I noticed it's the first therapy resource on that page, is openpathcollective.org, I believe. And I'm so glad I researched it again before, but it's openpathcollective.org. That website, that one is again targeting LGBT and people of color. But also what's really beautiful about that that resource is, yes, they take insurance, but if you don't have insurance, I think sessions are only between $30 and $60. It's at your leisure. So it's like, if I wake up today and I'm like, I'm not feeling my best self, I want to see if there's a therapist available, and there is one available, I can just pull out my debit card and pay $30 and I can have a session with a therapist for that day.
Oh, I
think that's amazing.
I love this. This is my favorite. Y'all, I couldn't wait to get to this part. This is my favorite. I am an advocate for therapy. I am a psych graduate. Listen, we're going to heal. We're going to heal, and we're going to use all tools necessary. So I am pro Black folk finding a therapist and locking in. With that being said, Irene and myself, we also fully understand that this is an expensive expense sometimes. And sometimes for some people, $30 can also be expensive depending on the world that they are existing in. And so because we want to promote healing through and through, we want to offer two of our listeners an opportunity to go ahead and tap into this resource and allow us to take care of your first session.
Yes. I was waiting for this part too. I'm so
excited. So how it will work is you will be following Brown Girls Heal. You will also be following the Deeper Than Roots podcast. You will have to click the link in my bio to listen to this episode in full. Obviously, it's at the end. And then you will also have to click on Irene's link on Brown Girls Heal, and you will have to tap on that resource. Make sure you're screen recording or taking pictures to show that that's how you got there, and then slide in my DMs, and I will go ahead and slide in Irene's DMs with who our two individuals will be, and we'll go ahead and bless you with your first therapy sessions.
I'm so excited for that.
That makes my heart so full, because I can tell a long story. We don't have the time, but I could tell a long story about my journey towards therapy and breaking that generational you know, misunderstanding, because I don't think it's a curse. I think it was a generational misunderstanding as to what therapy is and how it could be so profound to Black folk. We don't go through the years of trauma that we went through our ancestors' DNA, and now it vicariously of impacting us and still living in that same world of hatred and not need a therapist.
Right. Hello.
You need somebody to talk to, and not a friend or a family member or something like that, because though that's a beautiful and valid resource, they don't have the necessary tools and resources to gift you the steps to take to begin a process of unfolding. So please go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity and this offer. Is there anything else, my beautiful sister, that you want to share with the community before we get out of here? I could talk to you all day.
I know.
I could look at that beautiful smile all day, but we are on a time schedule, so we could push this episode out at 5 p.m. But the floor is yours.
I think what I would want to leave people with is, don't be afraid to set boundaries with people. Just like a few reminders. Don't be afraid to set boundaries with people. Don't be afraid to leave things behind that don't make you feel safe, seen, heard, or appreciated or valued. Don't be afraid to put yourself first. You can say no if that's what you need to do. You can take breaks if that's what you need to do. Your body and your intuition will tell you when things are not right. One thing I had to learn about anxiety is it is such a gift. And my body being able, or our bodies being able to send us warning signs and signals that certain things aren't right, or that certain things or people or situations or circumstances or conversations aren't for us. Like our body will let us know. So I think definitely honor that, honor everything that your body and your spirit is telling you. Know that your intuition will never guide you in the wrong direction. Make sure that the people that you have in your life that you call your tribe, your community, make sure that they make you feel loved. Make sure that they see you and they celebrate you. Make sure that they honor you on and off the court. Make sure that the love that you have in your life, it makes you feel whole, and it feels like home. Whatever home is to you, whatever safe space home feels like, that's what love should feel like. All the time, no matter where it's coming from, whether it's, you know, a partner or a friend or even within yourself. Make sure that whatever love your heart and your soul is receiving, it makes you feel safe and it feels like home. Love and confusion should never share the same space. Love and confusion should never share the same space. I'll say that again. Love and distrust should never share the same space. Love and unsafety should never share the same space. Whatever you do and whatever you involve yourself in, just make sure it makes you feel whole. Yeah. That's what I would.
I receive all of that. I hope you all receive all of that. I extend that all back to you, my good, beautiful sis. Ashe, I love you. I thank you. The last little thing that I want to run past you all is that Irene and myself are both participating in Kimberly Fisher. If you don't know who that is, you need to learn. She is the curator of Brown Girls Meditate on Instagram. You can find her at Brown Girls Meditate. Tomorrow, she kicks off her 21-day meditation challenge. Sign up, get into it. It is free. All these Black women out here offer, it is free. Okay. So you might want to lean into that and just begin the process. It's absolutely beginner friendly. Before we officially sign out, Irene, go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you. And before we get out of here, I love you.
I love you too. Instagram, you can find me, Instagram _Brown Girls Heal, Twitter, Brown Girls Heal, and browngirlsheal.com is my website.
Okay. I love you so much. We'll be talking soon.
Yes, I love you too. I love you too.
Peace.
Bye.